Welcome, friends, family, and other human beings. I am Mikhail Trench. I directed the film Silent Night, which just came out. Today we're going to talk a little bit about how I made this crazy little horror film. We're all just going to have a jolly good time together. Way back in the year of our Lord 2015, I made a character called the Snow Hunter. So I made a short animation featuring the character fighting this weird orange tongue monster, but I wasn't able to finish it for whatever reason. The footage, I think, is on an old hard drive of mine somewhere, but it's been broken for the last few years and I haven't been able to afford to get it fixed, so at the moment, everything I shot for it has just Thanos into oblivion. A lot of you jolly folks who have followed me for a while are probably more familiar with the Snow Hunter's first public appearance in the Snow Hunter Chronicles. This was a web series I made between 2016 and 2017. My brother DaViller voiced the snowman, the titular Snow Hunter, and there's an actress I met at a film screening named Elizabeth G. Smith, and she voiced the lead character Shelby Morgan. And the show, of course, followed Shelby and her idiotic brother Gary and this weirdo creep named Leonard Miller as they encounter a bunch of strange monsters during the summer, and the Snow Hunter shows up and he fights them and things like that. The show, which definitely wasn't inspired by another show that came out around the same time about a bunch of kids who encounter monsters, had 3 episodes made, and I had plans for at least 3 or 4 more. But largely because I didn't have the smoothest game plan in place, and also largely because I was an overworked art student at the time, I ended up scrapping the series. So now we move on to many years later, and I kind of started to think about what I wanted to do. Originally, my idea was I was going to stick with the original concept. I did want to kind of just I was going to maybe restart the show and have it again be about these kids tagging along with the Snow Hunter, but I just didn't like the idea anymore. It just didn't appeal to me. And then it hit me. I thought of, really what the best part of the Snow Hunter was. It wasn't these stupid Stranger Things ripoffs. It was seeing the Snow Hunter going at it with these monsters. And I think once I made that choice and I realized that, I kind of got a lot more excited. When I was approaching the making of this film, I wasn't really aiming to make the most elaborate or polished thing out there. I definitely wanted to challenge myself in any way I could, but I just wanted to kind of get this raw, intense energy out of me. Because I skipped out on a lot of the steps you're supposed to do when you're making an animated film. For all the concept work I did for this, literally it was just a 1 page of sketches of all the characters. I took a little more time to kind of develop the wolf. I was very inspired by the wolf from Sword in the Stone, the Disney movie. I love the scrawniness of that animal, and I thought it would be really interesting to just sort of reimagine that silhouette as like this aging, starving sort of predator. I did all my storyboarding in Photoshop and then arranged them into an animatic on Premiere. Added in some sound and music, of course. And of course, not everything from the storyboard stayed with this. My thing with this project that I was really happy about was how it was able to kind of evolve. So when it came time to create the characters, there wasn't anything super complex to their creation. Of course, they made it out of clay and have wire armature. If you'd like some more detail about how I went ahead and made these guys, then watch this thing that I recorded on one of the shooting days right now.
Hello, everybody. It is the second week I'm working on, we're closing in at the end of the week, second week of animating on the Snow Hunter short film, Silent Night. So I'm actually setting up for another shot right now, and I'm kind of cleaning up the models and stuff like that. And I figured it'd be kind of fun to show y'all a little bit of how the Snow Hunter is actually made, because I didn't really take many images when I was actually making him. So, it's probably no secret he's made out of clay. I use oil clay, just because it's like very good for animation and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's oil clay, and then inside of him, he does actually have somewhat of an armature. It's a wire armature. Sometimes you might even see his wire kind of pop through his arms if I like twist it too hard. It always kind of does that on the wrist, so you can actually kind of see this little gleam here. And then actually, if I take off his head, he has a wire in here that connects from his head all the way to the bottom of his body, and that's so I can keep all these connected. Also, I have a wire on the back of his body right here that is used to hold his little sack of arrows, and these arrows are just toothpicks that I painted black. If you've watched some of the earlier Snow Hunter shorts, they were also toothpicks, but I didn't paint them. But I figured, might as well do it, make it look a little more like something. So yeah, the monster is just similar thing, armature all throughout its body, and then oil clay on top. And then for the muscle, I kind of just built it up with black wrap. Normally I use aluminum foil, but I didn't have any. I have like a crap ton of black wrap, so just use what you got, and worked out pretty well for me. And then there are also like little pieces of floor wire on its little knees over here. So yeah, that's that. Anyhow, I got to get shooting. Trying to get some shots done the next 2-ish hours or so. At least 1 or 2 shots. If I'm lucky, I can get 2 shots done today. But yeah, so we're gonna see how things go, and yeah, let's hope for the best. Snow Hunter out for now.
And of course, here these guys are now, Snow Hunter and the monster. The wolf didn't make it, unfortunately. As you could tell in the film, it was an insanely messy sort of process, and I'm not the best at cleaning these guys or knowing like how a lot of these guys do that. The Snow Hunter, the reason he's so clean and not full of blood was because the last scenes I shot with him were all on like blue and green screen. I didn't want him to look like he had blood all over him and stuff like that. I wanted to like contrast from that real world. There were essentially there were 3 Snow Hunters I made for this film. There's the main one that's used during the majority of the fight and the ending. There's the one that's used in the green screen and blue screen rooms that is in the void and stuff like that. And then there was a third one that I used for the scenes like the part where he falls and he falls into 3 parts. Those are all separate pieces. The sets weren't especially complex either. The trees, actually I have a few of them right here. As you can see, the base of them was made out of like cardboard. Then I scored it with an X-Acto knife, and I was able to kind of round them out into a tree sort of shape. And then I covered it with air dry clay, which I do not recommend. I was kind of inspired set-wise by a lot of the art direction from Mary Blair. If you don't know Mary Blair, she did a lot of conceptual work for a lot of very well-known Disney movies from the 1950s. I was particularly influenced by her work in Alice in Wonderland. I really love how a lot of the actual backgrounds are just pure dark. There's nothing there. And so when colors are there in the foreground, they pop out so much more. It kind of adds to this eeriness of that film too, because it is kind of creepy. And so I wanted to kind of play with that for this film. I sort of love that idea of preying on like these animalistic instincts we have in us. Like we're all afraid of the dark one way or another. I really like keeping things in camera when I can, but obviously scenes can benefit from having composite elements. One of those scenes, of course, that required a lot of compositing and tricky setup was the part when the Snow Hunter blasts out of the monster's neck. And that was a result actually of somewhat of an accident. Originally, my plan was for the Snow Hunter to just simply shoot out of the monster's back. I was kind of coming towards the end of shooting the monster scenes. I did a lot of the practical set stuff first, or as I was shooting, the monster's head ended up falling off, as you can very much see. So it kind of gave me the idea as I was working on this. I was like, oh, it'd be really badass if like his head just like fully came off. The thing was, I still hadn't shot the actual scene. It took me a while to clean all these bits of gore off the monster because obviously he had like a lot of green blood all over him and stuff like that, and that would have gotten in the way of the green screen process. Where I shot the head and the body separately. And then, of course, I had the Snow Hunter, the explosion effect, all the bits of gore, those were shot separately. Of course, the scene where the Snow Hunter enters the void was also all done on blue and green screen. And to accomplish the effect for the rotting souls was pretty simple. So I had cutouts like this guy over here. And what I would do is I drew on both sides just different poses of these dudes. And when I was animating, all that it really was I just flipped it over and I shot it at different sort of speed. Definitely one of the scariest parts for me entering this was doing the sound design. Obviously, I'd done sound design before for my other projects, but yeah, I never really had any formal training. But I definitely knew with this, I wanted the sound to be very, very immersive. So I really got a bit experimental. Probably what I'm most happy with are the sounds for the monster. That was a combination of quite a few noises. There were metal creaks, sound of insects crawling. I think there was a bit of like bull or bison in there as well for some. The main roar that I used was actually the sound of a screaming child, and I pitched it in different ways. And yeah, that mainly really covers the film. It was a very fun time making this. Not only in terms of just what I was able to accomplish in terms of, I did set out to make something rougher around the edges and stuff like that. And you could definitely argue that this is. It evolved in a lot of very interesting ways. Also, gotta give a little shout out here. Had a very fun time collaborating with my brother, DaViller Trench. He illustrated a very amazing comic adaptation of the short film, and my partner, Sharice Foster, made this really lovely poster for it. Anyone who joins by Patreon as a $10 tier member by April 7th will receive a printed out version of both the poster and the comic, and I think that's definitely the best way to appreciate both of them, because they're really beautiful works on their own, and it was a lot of fun to make. It's been really fun to return to this character who I made almost 10 years ago, and I'm really thrilled to see where we go next with him and the story and all these other crazy ideas I have. And so yeah, if you guys would like to, of course, support, the Patreon is always there. Every week I post updates. I have, of course, my Claytasia series of shorts that I do every month, and then every week I have behind the scenes episodes. So if you really want to actually see me doing a lot of the animation and doing a lot of the process of this stuff and talking about it, I really recommend that. My Etsy shop, which I am planning on revamping, that's always an option. And of course, just subscribing. Please share the film, share it with your friends, your family, your coworkers, your barber, your dog walker, anyone who's willing to watch it. I'm just obscenely proud of this and really so ecstatic. This film really just it did everything for me that I wanted and then some creatively. I think it's a sign of some really cool stuff to come in the future. So thank you guys again so much for your support in any way possible. Stay groovy, stay safe, and I'll be seeing you in the future. I promise I won't keep saying that. I'm really bad at outros and saying goodbye. So goodbye.